Thank you, everybody, for watching another one of my Louisiana Election Forums, where I have on candidates from all over Louisiana talking about what their background is, why they're running. We do these in short, quick segments so we get a chance to get to know the candidates a little bit more. I like to bring on the good ones, like Representative Muscarello. How are you doing today, sir?
Wonderful, William, and I'm even better because I don't have a campaign to run. I'm winning unopposed, so I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, I kind of thought that, but you know what? Because there's lots of candidates on right now, every chance I get to highlight what you're doing and some of the good things that you're doing for Louisiana, I wanted to take that opportunity with you because you had some really good legislation at the last session. And I wanted to highlight that as an example of what other people running for office should look to.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment.
So let's talk about how there's a few some of your legislation that went through, some of it that didn't go through. Maybe is that a precursor for what we're going to see you working on in this next year for the next session?
Well, I'm always trying to do creative and think out of the box, William. I mean, we have to do things different in the state of Louisiana. We've been trailing behind all the other states for too long. We have to be bold and aggressive in the way we approach legislation moving forward. And so that's kind of the model that I've always used to prepare my legislation.
Well, let's talk about some of these problems facing Louisiana, because this is what I've been asking the other people that have competition, or they're running for their next position, because all too often we hear things, but you're actually in the mix. You're actually in it. You're actually seeing firsthand. You're looking at the budget. You're looking at the votes and everything like that. I want to get you to have an example of what other candidates should be more aware of. Like I said, you're on it. So
and I'll tell you, what I've done is every year we get graded by these magazines and groups, and we do well in some areas and we do poorly in others. And I don't think this is rocket science. I mean, all we need to do is focus on one issue and do it well. So I've made it my purpose this year to kind of shift my focus. I think the number one problem that we need to focus on is infrastructure. We need to do that well. I think with that comes lower insurance rates, brings more business and more industry to our state, and that's where we need to focus our dollars. Unfortunately, we're too busy building city halls and splash parks and baseball parks.
Right.
Look, those are good things, and I'm not demeaning that. But like in my parish, I pay a millage for a baseball park, and my son uses that, and I pay for it. But right now, as a state, we need to compete with our neighbors, and we're not a rich state, William. I mean, we are a state that's not rich like Texas and Florida. So we need to start focusing on the little things, and I think when we do that, people will start coming to our state, and we won't be losing population, we'll be gaining population.
You do have a unique approach, Representative, on infrastructure. A lot of people are talking about eliminating our income tax. A lot of people talk about business and industry and education, but you do make a good point when you work on infrastructure, spending, and you're building the roads and bridges, and you're getting the infrastructure set up to where businesses can be able to get to a good location or have a good location. I think that's really important. Now, that and where on the last session, there was a lot of talk about busting the spending cap, because and there are people, representatives, who voted for it. And I certainly can see that side. I can see the side of not busting the spending cap, because you don't want to, bust the spending cap. But then there's ones who voted for it, as I was starting to say, that saw it as a way to get a lot of these projects going. There was a lot of money in that budget to get infrastructure done, but where's that line that we cross between doing this, the necessities, and doing the splash parks? Where does you think government responsibility begin and end when it comes to that?
These are the questions that keep me up at night. I'll tell you, it needs to be, when you say you interview candidates, we need to get our politicians to commit to focusing on just doing infrastructure and not splash parks. And so we've tried that message last year, and under our Ways and Means chairman, he was kind of a big proponent of let's do cement and roads and bridges, and let's get our infrastructure back in shape. We kind of deviated from that path. I was a little disappointed in it, It takes the leadership at the top has to steer that ship. So that's why, as an older member now, I'm trying to spread that message to our colleagues and say, look, let's do a holistic approach. Let's all get together and make this our mission. If we can't get together as a group and make this our mission, it'll never happen. So you just have to keep beating that drum one day at a time.
Do you think that, because the splash parks are the shiny objects, of course, splash parks don't just mean splash parks, they mean all the fancy, frivolous, extra stuff that kind of creates that sense of a quality of life. But do you think that when you do the infrastructure, that, build it and they will come, that when the businesses, start coming to Louisiana because we have the right infrastructure, we let them build the splash parks? Is that kind of another sense of where you're going with that?
100%. And sewer and streets are not sexy, but they do bring businesses and industry to our area. So we have to start focusing on that. And that's going to be my goal moving forward. As far as the spending cap, that was a big debate. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I wish we could have done things a little differently, but it didn't work out that way. And I'm not a person to dwell on the past. I'm looking forward to the future. We're going to have a new governor. We're going to have a new school of thought. We're going to have a big turnover in the legislature. And I'm excited to be a part of that process.
Now, this is your second term or your third term?
This is my second and a half term. I did an unexpired 2-year term, gentleman that resigned. And then this will be my complete second year. So I actually get 3 terms.
Okay. Now you get 3 terms normally, but are you going to get 3.5 as a result?
Right. So I would, like Mark Wright, one of my colleagues, he came in a little bit before, so he only gets 2 terms. I'm able to get 3 terms. So if I go the whole distance, I'll have 14 years in the House of Representatives.
Well, let's hope, because from what I've seen you do in the past, I'm hoping to see you there in the future. But speaking of the future, what do you think you can work on and be effective at in the next term? You're going to have more experience. You're certainly one of the more conservative ones that's doing a lot of really good things and has a lot of really good ideas. And I will bring up another bill in a little bit that didn't quite get through, but shows me that you listen to people, which has to do with Lake Maurepas. But what do you think that you can do as an experienced legislature going into this next term to be effectively get things done?
I think that we need to focus on our tax structure. I'm going to bring a bill next session. We do it wrong. I'm not a big tax guy. I'm an attorney and businessman, but taxes aren't my strong suit. I'll leave it to my colleagues that CPAs and things of that nature. But I do, I took the model that we looked at other states and see who's succeeding. And this isn't really complicated stuff, William. And I'd like to see us go to a 0 income tax. Now, why do we want to do that? Because what that does is that brings businesses and entrepreneurs to our state. And when businesses and entrepreneurs come here, they create jobs, they create opportunities for our citizens, and they spend money here. And
right.
So to me, that's important. And, you want to bring I was just telling a friend of mine the other day, there's a big business in my area that was started here, a local owned business, but they've really thrived and succeeded. They donate, they give to the community. They are really just a good community asset to our area. And so it just brings home the fact that why are places like Dallas succeeding? Because all of these businesses are thriving there. And with that becomes, they're donating to their community. They're spending money in their community. So that's what we have to focus on.
The businesses.
The way we give out, let me tell you, the way we give out like sales tax exemptions, it's like handing out candy. There's no rhyme or reason. So my bill is going to basically say that if you're going to do a sales tax exemption on, say, like, some industry or some,
right.
They have to prove that it's going to make us money. And if not, let's keep that and then lower the taxes on people, everyday common working people like you and I
can already see the amendment on that. I can already see, that they have to build a splash park and donate it to the community, or they've got to do something to give back to that community, maybe a school building or something.
Well, they're going to do that on their own. Let me tell you every successful person that I know, they want to give back to their community. I don't think it has to be a demand. it's going to come naturally. Every successful person that I'm friends with, they want to give back. So that'll come in time.
You know, there's a candidate running down if our Blake Maguez's old seat, and Jacob Rowe, and I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but he's a businessman down there, and he already does that for his community. He already, he's been doing it for years. He always gives back. He has a business there, and as a business owner, he has a nice venue that he created for the public to use.
Right.
He's done a lot of that. So you're absolutely right when you build the right infrastructure and you focus on those roads and bridges and you focus on that, maybe throw in some getting rid of the income tax as the carrot at the end of that road that's been paved. You not only bring more business and industry, but you bring more opportunity. What else do you see as a major setback for Louisiana that we got to work on right now?
I've made my list, but I'm telling you, I'm going to focus on one thing at a time. I think, there are so many, and look, I'm very bullish on my state. I'm not in any way Debbie Downer, and we've got great things going. We've got great people, but I just want to focus on one thing. Let's do it well. And so that's going to be my focus. I mean, I'm not going to, the other issues will come. There'll be a lot of issues coming to the legislature that I'll have to make decisions on. But ultimately, my focus, it will be tax structure and infrastructure, period.
And I love not only the focus, instead of doing the shotgun blast and just saying, hey, it's all these things, I'm going to work on all of them. And I don't see it as Debbie Downer. I see it as being focused, and saying, look, like you said, I've never heard an elected official yet say, let's focus on one thing and do it right. You always hear the list. Even if it's a list of 3 things. Now, granted, you got 2 things on there, but you're talking about really doing those things and doing them right. And I absolutely love that. Can you have an update with what's going on with Lake Maurepas? I know that you kind of, I love your common sense approach. You didn't, we have a couple of minutes before the next guest here, but I loved your common sense approach. You didn't try to eliminate an industry. You didn't try to, to get real narrative driven about the project. You try to do something that was just common sense about, not building something too high, which would be an eyesore for people in that area. Can you give us an update of what's going on with that area?
So my bill basically said, look, I'm not going to stop you from doing what you're trying to do, but if you're going to do it, make it economic, like the infrastructure shouldn't be bold, big, and kind of intrusive to my way of life. When I go fishing, I don't want to see a big jack-up rig in the middle of the lake. All that being said, the bill was not successful, and that's part of life. My appreciation is when I go to New Orleans to visit my in-laws every weekend, in the middle of Lake Maurepas, they are doing some aggressive work out there. So I can't tell you, they have been very good at giving us information, but as far as like the details of what's going on, but I do see barges and a lot of action going on out there. So looking at the end of the day, this is going to be 5 million tons of carbon injected into Lake Maurepas every year. So it's going to be a big project. I've talked to the persons in charge of that and let them know, look, as a state and as my community, we need to be compensated for allowing you to do this in our community. So we'll see what happens.
I love the fact that you're taking a common sense approach to everything, including that project on Lake Maurepas. I love the fact that you're not getting real excitable and waving a narrative driven flag. You're taking a common sense approach and keeping an eye out on it and for your community. And I really appreciate what you're doing, Representative Muscarello. I really do. Thank you very much.
Thank you for
being on the show today.
I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.
All right, we'll do it again. We'll do an update again. I got my next interviewee up here. Brandon Trosclair is running for Secretary of State. We're bringing him on.
More power to him. Good luck to everybody. Thank you
so much. Have a good day.
Thank you, William.
Hey, Brandon, how are you doing today, my friend? How's it going?
Doing great, William. How are you?
Good. We are live on Facebook, and I wanted to have an opportunity to bring you on and see how the campaign is going.
Man, it's going fantastic, William. Working very, very hard all across the state. and we'll be headed out right after we finish this interview, headed up to North Louisiana to Shreveport. We have meetings up there tonight. In fact, we'll be in Shreveport tonight and on Wednesday night. But every day we're somewhere across this great state, and we got a lot of momentum and a lot of energy. We picked up a handful of endorsements from RPEX last week, and expecting a handful more so this week. So very excited.
I saw the one you got in Orleans last week. Congratulations.
Thank you. We picked up Orleans and Lafourche and West Baton Rouge last week, and then we're expecting several more parish RPEX this week as well.
You know what I like is that when you started this movement, there were a lot of people that knows or is aware that our election systems across the country are under attack. And I'm gonna simplify it,
Right.
on this, because I don't want to belabor it too much. But a lot of people didn't think it was possible, and what I think you're showing is that, hey, it's possible, and some people who believe it's happening. You're saying you're going to go in there and you want to see, and you want to see if it's happening. If it is, you're going to fix it, and if it's not happening, you're going to secure it. And I appreciate the fact, because I'm seeing the tide turning. I'm seeing a lot of people who didn't think it was possible, didn't think it was happening, now are more realizing in the last 6 months with all the new information coming out, like the Haldeman report and other things. They're seeing that, hey, it's possible. If even if they don't think it is happening, they think it is possible. And you, Brandon Trosclair, is somebody saying you're going to secure it for our future. Is that correct?
Yeah, and what you're alluding to, William, I guess without saying it, is whether or not our election machines have truly, in fact, been manipulated, and we will definitely get to the bottom of that. But one thing that has not changed from the get-go is our commitment to the people of Louisiana to clean up the process. I say it over and over and over again. We're the only state in the country where you can't audit our elections. So it doesn't matter if our machines are being manipulated or not right now. We will give the people of Louisiana an auditable trail. In fact, I tell everybody we're going to give them an image of every single ballot in the state within 24 hours. They'll be able to get that, and they won't have to file a FOIA request or pay for it or ask for it. We're going to give them that up front. So we know that for a fact that that's done. We also know for a fact that we have an F in the accuracy of our voter rolls, and we have well over 700,000 people that are inactive and ineligible. So again, it doesn't matter whether or not those machines are or aren't being manipulated. One thing we do know for a fact is we have problems with our registration and the lack of transparency and accountability, and the people of Louisiana will receive that when I'm elected as next Secretary of State.
I love the fact that you're adding more transparency. So
That's what it's all about.
even if those people that are out there saying, hey, our elections are safe, our elections are secure, even if they are 100% right, you are going to say, hey, look, they might, even if they're right, I'm still going to add more transparency to our election system. So more transparency can only make it better. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We have to remember that government works for the people, not the other way around. And in order to hold government officials accountable, you have to have transparency. And so that's what we will give the people, because I want the people to hold me accountable as their next Secretary of State. I want them to hold all of their government officials accountable to we the people. So we're going to give them the utmost amount of transparency, not only on elections, but also on the business side of the Secretary of State's office. We're going to implement Ohio checkbook, so they'll be able to find and follow every single penny that we spend and see every single check that we write. Again, it's all about restoring the power back to the people where it belongs.
I love that. I'm going to come back to that in 1 second. But first, I want to give my personal testimony that I know that our election registrations are bad in Louisiana. When I ran for office 4 years ago and I had a voter list, which was the current list at the time, I can tell you when I knocked on doors, I would say that as high as 10% or more, maybe, and sometimes it would seem like a lot more than that, registrations that were bad, 10 people that were registered to vote in a house where only 2 people lived, and the wrong names and the wrong or double addresses I saw a couple times, on there. And so you're working on cleaning that up. But I also like the fact that you're talking about there's other job duties of Secretary of State that you're gonna commit to be still working on and making even more efficient. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of people don't realize, but the Secretary of State also manages 9 museums across the state of Louisiana. And quite frankly, I don't actually even think that should be the role of the Secretary of State. We have a lieutenant governor that does tourism, and it manages hundreds of other parks and museums. And so I look forward to partnering with our lieutenant governor and having a partnership to clean the museums up that we have, do a better job with marketing and advertising of those museums so they can thrive. So that's one plan we have in place. And then, of course, we also work with the notaries around the state and do their testing, and as well as UCC filings. You start a new company here in Louisiana, you do all your filings with the Secretary of State, and of course the archives and things like that. But make no mistake, William, I am running to clean up our elections as the main focus. We're going to clean these elections up for the people of Louisiana and give them elections as good as the people here.
I love that. I love that you're focusing on that, because you're right. That should be the main, one of the main jobs of the Secretary of State, is our elections. And now, granted, our clerk of courts and registrar of voters offices around the state, are actually in charge of the registrations. How are you going? And some of them actually resist, the idea that our elections need to be cleaned up, whether they're right or whether they're wrong. How are you going to build those bridges with them, to say, hey, look, we're going to improve it in a way that we're not going to make your job harder. We're going to make your job actually easier. Have you kind of started building those bridges? Have you started, finding some ways to do that?
Yeah, so I'll give you one perfect example. I visited a clerk up in North Louisiana last week, and you're talking about the registration. He said, "Trosclair, look at that stack of returned mail behind you of those certified letters, and it was over a foot deep." And I said, "Well, what's that?" And he goes, "I get 20% every time I mail out jury duty. I get at least 20% returned that nobody's there, no address, wrong person, whatever the case." And so, well, that's one thing that no elected official in the state of Louisiana has been able to argue with us, is that our voter rolls are dirty. They might disagree with our approach on cleaning it up, but nobody has been able to argue with and say our voter rolls are dirty. Also, talking with the clerks, it is talking about how we're going to do this. I'm a proponent of hand marked secure paper ballots, hand counted at the precinct. And a lot of them have been told a different story on our process compared to what we actually want to do. They're thinking on the way that they adjudicate ballots now on the mail in ballots, which is a very process. We have a much better plan in place to be able to give a certified election within minutes of the polls closing. And anyway, I think we're making some great progress there. And also, I want to remind everybody that here in Louisiana, it is a top-down state, and so the Secretary of State is the chief elections officer and sets the policy and the processes for our elections. The clerks simply follow out that policy.
So you got a little bit of a challenge, not only in working on fixing our elections, but building those bridges. Like you said, if it's top down, it's going to be up to you to say, hey, look, I have the authority to do this, but I want to include you all in the process. And it sounds to me like you're looking for ways to include all of the registrar voters, all of those clerk of courts, include them in the process in a way that the state benefits. Am I saying that accurately?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, so the Secretary of State will write the policies and the procedures of that. And of course, he needs the clerks and the registrars to help carry out those responsibilities. And at that point in time, we become a support team on how to get this done and to help them. One of the things that our Constitution clearly says is that the registrar of voters is supposed to physically canvass their parish every 5 years. And William, that's not happening at all anywhere in Louisiana. And so we want to help them, whether it's financially or on manpower or even on processes on how to get that done. So we plan on being a very, very active role in helping the local clerks and the registrars make that happen and follow out their duties as a clerk and as a registrar.
And I'm not criticizing any past Secretary of State, when I say this, but it just seems to me that, through the years, generations of Secretary of States, generations of exchanging of hands in this position, that, it's kind of like, the dust gets swept under the rug, the bad registrations. Things kind of go along to get along, things get set in place, and they just kind of it's almost easier some way to just keep doing things the same way they've been getting done.
Right.
I like the fact that you think that the museums need to go back to the lieutenant governor's office, which I think is a great allocation of the time and support staff of the Secretary of State to give that job to the to the lieutenant governor, so that you're going to have more time.
Right.
And I like the fact that you're saying, hey, look, we're going to focus on not only the job, but on making this office more efficient for the people. But I want to go back to that checking account thing. I thought that would be the job of the treasurer to make our records more, our financial records more obvious. I'm not, criticizing. I'm just saying I thought that would be the job duty of the treasurer. But you're saying it's actually the job of the Secretary of State to make those transactions more noticeable or visible.
Yeah, and it's like that for every department, William. The treasurer handles the treasury, the Secretary of State handles the State Department, the Attorney General handles the Attorney General's office, so forth and so forth. And so, whether it's my responsibility or not, to me doesn't matter. Again, it's all about being accountable and transparency to the people of Louisiana. So regardless if it's my responsibility, I will give the people of Louisiana a clear look into what's going on in our office on a day in and day out basis. And what better way to do that than Noel's saying, follow the money. So we will certainly allow them to do so every single month. You'll have an updated website with that on there.
So you're looking to create a website where people
it'll be on the Secretary of State's website. No different than that's where the ballots are going to be. That's no different than when you register a business, do your annual filing, so forth and so forth. It's going to have a link on there to where you will follow the money trail on every check that we write and watch every penny that we spend. You won't have to go searching for it.
I love this idea. I never, again, the treasurer's office, I thought that we're on through there, but you're talking about a way where the people of Louisiana can feel like they have more control over what's going on in our state when they can go on the website, they can see the last election, they can look at ballots, they can say, okay, this ballot, and look, if they want to get really aggressive, they're going to be able to go on and count the ballots and go, okay, I counted the ballots for this candidate, that candidate, and it adds up to what was reported, publicly. And you're going to be able to do that with you as Secretary of State. And then also with you as Secretary of State, people are going to be able to go on and say, I want to know where, our $500 million of money went, whatever the budget may be at the year. I know it's bigger than that. I'm not giving the right number, but they're going to say, I want to know where, that money was spent, and they're going to be able to go onto a checking account, an online checking account, much like their own portal, and say, okay, a check for, $99 is written to whoever for road repair, or whether $1 million. Is that correct?
Yeah, 100% correct. Again, I think one of the premises of my campaign is for a smaller, more efficient, and more transparent government at every level. William, I'm not one of these guys that gravel at the feet of elected officials. They don't, they work for me, not the other way around. I pay their salary in the form of taxpayer dollars. And again, I'm all for a more smaller, efficient government, a more transparent government, but ultimately a government that is beholden to the people of Louisiana only. And you do that by being accountable and transparent.
I'm not trashing any other candidate. I'm just saying that I don't hear many other candidates, whether it's for Secretary of State, Treasurer, whatever, talking about this. They're talking about, you're actually saying, look, we need to make our government more transparent and more accountable. And I think I'm with you. When you put the money online, where people can see it, you not only make it more transparent, make it much more accountable. Is there anything else that you see that you want to do as Secretary of State?
Well, again, it all starts with elections. I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised when they start seeing and they're being able to hold people accountable and transparency. 68% of the country doesn't trust our election process, William, and that's very, very unfortunate. But the root cause of that is because there's no accountability and there's no trust. And so I think by being accountable, by giving you elections that you can finally audit for the first time in decades here in Louisiana, we're going to restore the accountability process. We're going to restore faith and trust in our elections, and hopefully, the end result of that is a much bigger turnout than what we're getting right now. I think it's sad and disgraceful when you have 10, 15, 20% show up for some of these smaller elections. And look, even 50% turnout, which would be massive, to me is just a shame. Our most sacred right as an American, I believe, is our right to vote, and we want to encourage people to get out there and vote.
Brandon, that's actually one of the great statements. Well, you make a lot of great statements, but that's one of the greatest statements I've heard here in a while. And I'll translate what I get out of that. When you talk about making our elections more transparent and more accountable, I think you're right that it's a get more people involved in the process and get more people coming to vote. And maybe it's just 1% more people, but maybe it's a lot more, because when people really feel like, oh, wow, I saw my vote. I went online. I looked up my vote. Hey, I went online and I could see. Will you be able to see how other people were voting?
No. So look, state law says that the voting has to remain completely anonymous. And so what we're saying is there's 352 people in a precinct that voted. You'll be able to go count 352 ballots. And so what we're seeing across the country in other states that do what we're proposing to do, we're not reinventing the wheel here, William. But William Wallace may put a star on his ballot or a certain little squiggly or something like that he knows that was his ballot and it was cast and it was counted. So the law is very clear that the ballots have to remain anonymous.
So how does that happen? So basically, right now they can go online and they'll be able to see the votes, but there won't be a name on each ballot. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Will there be a number, their voter number?
No, that was an idea that was floated around, William. And ultimately, we got some pushback there that employers can make employees come in and bring their numbers, and he can look up how they voted and get pressure from different employers or unions or so forth and so forth. And so, again, what we're going to do is follow the law that's already on the books, and they will remain completely anonymous. No barcode, no UPC number to go and dig it up. But again, what we're seeing and what we've been told from people in Texas and Florida and Arkansas and Missouri is that, people are just putting some type of marking on their ballot. So when they're counting their precinct, then that they can see that was truly, in fact, their ballot.
Yeah, that's really a great idea. I love the fact that that nobody's going to see the names, which
Correct.
keeps your votes anonymous. But at the same time, you could go to a precinct and say, I want to check the Secretary of State or my clerk of court is reporting that this was the actual how the count turned out for this election, and they physically go through and count themselves. But I love the idea they can put a little smiley face or squiggly line or whatever, and kind of see that. I love the thought process behind this. It sounds like you put a lot of thought into this. It sounds to me like not only a lot of thought, but you've got a lot of clear activities or clear actions planned, once you're in the office of Secretary of State, to make sure that you not only build the bridges and make it easier for people to work, but do things in such a way that our state benefits. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely, William. So the difference between me and all my competitors is I'm a business guy looking to fix a broken system. I'm not a politician in need of a job. And so we've been working at this extremely hard for a long time now, well over a year. And in fact, the Louisiana Citizens for Election Integrity have been working on this for 4 years now. We're not reinventing the wheel. We've taken proven processes from other states. We fine-tuned it, in our opinion. We've come up with some very unique ways to make it faster and efficient. And in fact, that Missouri is adopting some of our policies and procedures.
I've been seeing that. Yeah.
Yep. We have a manual that has been written. And again, we've went through and made some improvements to it that we think that it covers every imaginable situation that can come up on election day. And so, again, we are people, my campaign, we are people that are running to fix a broken system, not looking for a job. I have a great job already, but I feel that I can't sit on the sidelines no longer and just watch it crumble. We're going to do something about it. So that's exactly what we're going to do. And again, like to your point, we have a plan ready to go from day number one. We're going to be a very aggressive administration on all fronts, and I'm looking forward to serving the people of Louisiana.
Do you have time for one more question?
Shoot.
What is your plan when you said a very aggressive plan when you get in office? What is that plan? when you get in office?
Yeah, so day number one, we will withdraw from the National Association of Secretary of States for what they've done in the past on censoring the people of Louisiana and Americans, censoring their First Amendment rights. So that's on day number one, we will do that. And then on day number one as well, as we will start implementing and spreading and training the processes on, we will clean up our registration. We're going to keep our registration clean, and we're going to start the process of rolling out hand-marked secure paper ballots for the next presidential election. It'll be here before you know it. And so we're going to be very, very aggressive with that. Also on day number one, we will start on reworking the website. I get a lot of complaints from our notaries around the state on how cumbersome and antiquated that it is. We're going to make that a lot more efficient. We're going to do that with the feedback of the notaries. And so we got a lot of work ahead, but we got good plans in order to fix all that.
Can I ask about how the Secretary of States have how that has violated First Amendment rights? You said that you're going to withdraw from the Secretary of State's, I guess,
National Association of Secretary of States.
How they violated First Amendment rights.
Yeah, so if you look on the Twitter files, you look in the congressional hearings for censorship, you look also in the Louisiana, Missouri versus Biden lawsuit. There's 1,400 pages of evidence. There's also our current Secretary of State is on video saying that his number one accomplishment is censor in the last 6 years is working with federal partners to censor Americans. And so I think that there's a group that think they have the authority or egregious enough to censor the First Amendment rights of the people of Louisiana. It doesn't matter what they get right. That oversteps the bounds right there. And we no longer need them. Again, we're not going to be beholden to all these 3- and 4-letter agencies around the country. We're only beholden to one faction of people, and that's the people of Louisiana. And so that's what we're going to do from day number one to the very last day that we're in office. We are going to serve the people of Louisiana. We're going to give an unparalleled level of customer service. I tell people all the time right now that I'm in the customer service business and I happen to sell groceries. And we're going to give unparalleled customer service at the State Department, the likes of people I've never seen from a government agency. And again, I'm just thrilled and excited. I can't wait to get ready to work for the people of Louisiana.
Brandon, I absolutely love what I'm hearing. You know,
Good.
I
The
love
people of Louisiana are as well. You know, we are all over the state. We made over 140 stops across this great state, and the people of Louisiana, our message is resonating with them as well. So we're excited.
well, the customer service aspect, the transparency aspect, all of these things tell me I'm hearing things that I don't hear from other elected officials, and where other elected officials might attack, on some of your ideas. I want to highlight that your ideas actually, think about the people involved in Louisiana, people in Louisiana, more than it talks about promoting a position or past people that have held that position.
Yeah, I'm not a guy that needs a title or a position. When I go into a restaurant, I'd rather be unrecognized than recognized. And so I don't need none of that stuff. Again, we're here we're running for Secretary of State to fix a broken system because no other elected official was doing it. So that's why we're running for Secretary of State. And again, we're thrilled and can't wait to work for the people of Louisiana.
I love it. Brandon, thank you so much.
Thank you, my brother.
I really
Thanks for having
appreciate
me
it. I'm looking forward to seeing you out on the campaign trail. Looking forward to seeing you again soon. And I want to have you on again. We'll do an update before the election.
Sounds good, my man.
Thank you so much. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Have a good day. And be careful going up to Shreveport.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you soon.
Yes, sir.
All right, everybody. We're waiting for our next guest to come on here in just a couple of minutes. But as you heard from Brandon Trosclair, I got to tell you something. I can't tell you how much I absolutely love the idea of putting more transparency in people's hands, and especially with that checking account idea. I mean, who would have thought that right now it's harder to go find out where all of our tax dollars are being spent? And remember, that's our tax dollars. That's not theirs. That's being hidden. And again, I'm not criticizing any past elected official, because let's face it, some of these systems have been in place for many, 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 many years. How many years, I don't know, because this is all an accumulation of policies. It's all accumulation of the little things that's gone in. It's the same thing happening in Louisiana that's happened with our federal government. we didn't get here today because of some elected official that came in and got it all done at once. We got here today because of all the elected officials over the past generations and elections that have gotten in and created little laws. Like, oh, someone came to me and said there's a problem here. So they create a little law and they say, oh, that solves this problem. But what happens is, not just in our Louisiana laws, but specifically to the Secretary of State laws and legislations that happens through our legislation, is that lots of little bills get created and they all have unintended consequences. One law to improve registrations might keep another law from being done effectively. Now, again, I'm not being specific. I'm only talking about things that I get told when I'm at the Louisiana Capitol, things that I hear other legislators say. Some legislators actually go to Baton Rouge every year to get laws eliminated because they've been told, hey, this law conflicts with this one. Now, we have some really smart people, and I'm not being sarcastic here to explain the process, because I've talked to these people at the Capitol. We have some really smart people, attorneys, not business people, but attorneys and people who really know the Louisiana laws, and they will go up, and every time legislation comes in, they'll go in the computer or they'll research to see if the new legislation actually conflicts with any kind of old legislation. And that's their job. And most of the time, they do a great job at it. However, from speaking to some legislators about some of these other miscellaneous laws that get through there, they do have unintended consequences in being able to, or in conflicting with other things on the books. I'm simplifying what I'm saying for the reason, because we could go down, there's a rabbit hole. There's way too many rabbit holes to go down on this one. But what I like about the Secretary of State's office and Brandon Trosclair shining a light on it is that there have been so many laws over the years that have added up that may be affecting our registrations. We've got a lot of clerk of courts and registrar of voters in our state that are overwhelmed. And again, this is not a criticism, towards them, because like Brandon pointed out, that we have to have our voter registration rolls cleaned up. And a lot of our registrar voters, their hands are tied. Maybe it's budgets, maybe it's manpower, maybe it's all the other rules and regulations that they're having to follow that are already in place that keep them from doing other jobs. Again, I'm giving you the gist of what's happening. I'm not being specific for the reason of time. Our next guest is going to be coming on here in just a few minutes. I'm looking at a text here from a candidate that could not make it in this spot here. Either way, that being said, our next candidate that's be coming on here in just a few minutes is Randy Seal, who's running for sheriff or re-election for sheriff in Washington Parish. But before he comes on, to finish up where I was with this is, I'm not going to criticize any past elected official, any registrar of voters, or any clerk of court, because they're all, from when I talk to them, following the rules that they have in place in front of them. And I don't hold it against them that some of them can't do some of their jobs because they are bombarded with so many other rules and regulations in our Constitution. Again, I'm simplifying the process because maybe we do need an elected official. I'm not saying maybe. We absolutely need an elected official that's going to get in this office and is willing to do the hard work to streamline things. That happened with our GoBiz account a long time ago, where when you try to have a corporation or you want to create a corporation in Louisiana, it wasn't really necessarily an easy process. And they created the GoBiz site, which actually streamlined a lot of that process for businesses. So wouldn't it be great to have somebody in that motivation? Again, I'm not necessarily doing a campaign for somebody here as much as I'm campaigning for the idea that we need somebody to get into this office and streamline the election process in the Secretary of State's office. And it sounds to me like Brandon Trosclair is trying to do just that. I've reached out to some of the candidates that I haven't heard back from yet to talk about this in this office, because I'd be interested in hearing ideas on how we can streamline our election process. I know when I ran for office, which was 4 years ago, 2019, where I looked at the registrations. You heard me tell Brandon this. I looked at the registrations in our from that I got from the Secretary of State's office, and I would knock on a door, and I can't tell you how many of those registrations were incorrect. It seemed to me because for a while there, I was actually keeping track, and I was getting as low as 10% and as high as 20% of registrations on the rolls that were incorrect. I was getting registrations where there are people who are registered to vote at houses that weren't even there. I was getting abandoned houses. Now that happens, I guess it's easy because someone's registered to vote, they move, the house gets abandoned, whatever the case may be. It's all possible. But this is all part of the canvassing process, which, by the way, I'd like to add that the canvassing process is actually something that we as citizens can do. It's by law, already one of those laws that maybe need to get streamlined in our Constitution, but a clerk of court, registrar of voters, they have to go and do things to canvass, to purge rolls, because it's actually getting out, knocking on the door to find out if people are still there and actually asking. You don't ask how they voted. You don't ask who they're voting for. You just ask, hey, this is what we have on our voter rolls. We have you, we have Jane Doe, and is that possible that that you all are registered to vote, or these other people are registered to vote? That's how you actually find it out. It's something that you as a citizen can legally do, by the way, to be able to find out if the voter rolls are clear in your actual precinct. It's something that's real easy to do. And I've learned that there's a lot of people, for our next guest coming up, there's a lot of people that do this around the country. There's a lot of groups around the country that do the canvassing because, again, not criticizing any Secretary of State in office or that held office in the past, I just see that there's a sense of that it's possible, let's put it this way, for them to be overwhelmed with the rules and regulations that are on the books and all the things that they have to abide by. There's federal laws that supersede our Louisiana laws in the election process. There's federal laws that may conflict with local laws. And that's the point that I'm making, that we need an elected official who's going to get in there and say, look, we're going to streamline the election process. We're going to clean up the voter rolls. We're going to make this process put in a way where it's easier for the clerk of courts. Maybe have to go back and go look at all the laws, both Louisiana and on a federal level, and say, look, we got to look at all of these laws. Granted, Louisiana can't change the federal laws, but they can work with our elected officials here in Louisiana, can work with our congressmen and our senators in such a way and say, look, these rules and laws need to be cleaned up. Now, I get it. Whether they're going to be able to go through the process on a national level in the halls of Congress in D.C. is a whole nother story. But if we as states, individual states using our 10th Amendment rights, can change laws within our states to streamline the process on a state level, if we get more and more active people within our states doing this, then on a federal level, it's almost like enough states, they're going to have to listen. I know when I went to Missouri a few weeks ago, went to Mike Lindell's symposium, which, by the way, brings a lot of people all around the country who are just concerned about election integrity. And there's lots of people in Colorado, Texas, Missouri, and states all over the country that might be getting votes the way they want to get. Their state might be voting the way they want them to, or they want the votes to turn out, or the elections to turn out, but they're still getting in there to make sure their elections are safe and secure. Texas, a red state. Missouri, red state. Florida, red state. You would think that there's no need to canvass because it's red, right? Well, the Democrats might disagree with that, and I get that. But there are active groups, both Republican and Democrat, and groups like those that are working together to be able to do things to improve the elections in those states. That being said, that's what we need in Louisiana. We need, and we got that. We have one group, Brandon alluded to that, that's working to improve the integrity of our elections. It's not that they're trying to change elections or change things or kick people out of office. They just want to make sure that our voter rolls are transparent. This is what I'm trying to get other people to understand. There's a lot of people in our Republican Party that disagree with this. They say, look, our elections are safe, they're secure. And to them, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that we've all been, we all want to believe that our elections are safe and secure. And to your point, maybe they are. But wouldn't it be great, even if you think that they are safe and secure, to be able to add other layers of transparency to our government, to our election process, other layers of transparency that will only make us feel better and more confident that, hey, look, I would rather hear a friend say, I told you so. You all worked this hard to get another layer of transparency. You all worked this hard to get maybe it's paper ballots, maybe it's more transparent elections. You all worked this hard only to find out that they've been perfect all along. I would like to have to hear, I told you so, and have that level of transparency, then have it the other way around. But what I can attest to is that I know that our voter rolls are dirty. They're inaccurate. There are so many countless registrations on our voter rolls that are inaccurate, are wrong, and they need to be cleaned up. And that our registrar of voters and our clerk of courts in some areas are overwhelmed because of all the combinations of state laws and federal laws that they have to abide by, the lack of manpower, and the ability to go out and canvass. They're overwhelmed, they're undermanned, and I understand that. I'm not giving them credit. So I am giving them credit, but I'm not saying, hey, this is an excuse for not getting out there and doing what's required of you. I'm saying that I can certainly understand that because generations, years gone by, this process has been going on, that now we need to work a little bit harder, knowing, because you can't tell me that you can look at elections around our country and say they're all safe and secure. Maybe you feel the ones in Louisiana are, but maybe the ones in Louisiana are. Wait, here we go. This is our sheriff that is supposed to come on right now. Sheriff Seal, if you could click the email that I emailed, we're live online. I've got your spot held here. I emailed the link to your email for the live stream. So if you go to that email, you click the live stream. We're live on air right now. If you go to click that live stream link, and then you enter the studio, it'll bring you right in. You click that link, and it'll bring you right in. So there you go. All right, you're coming on. All right, I'm gonna hang up and bring you on here as you enter the studio. So finish up real quick because Randy Seal is coming on here right now. Here in just a second, as soon as that link brings him into the StreamYard studio. What happens is, again, I'm not pointing fingers, not placing blame, and I'm certainly not giving a pass. I'm saying that we need somebody who's going to play an active role in making sure that our elections are more transparent. How are you doing there, country? How's it going? Well, your speaker's not on. Let's see. Yeah. I can't hear you. but your mic is not on. See, try putting your mic on. Nope, still can't hear you. When you enter the studio, try backing out of the studio and make sure your mic is on from the studio. Did you hear that? There you go. So to continue what I was saying there for a minute, again, take a positive approach to our elections. We like to feel that our elections are all safe and secure, and maybe they are. But I can tell you that our registrations are not. 100% our registrations are not accurate. And that's what we need, is somebody with the fortitude and the courage. All right. You there, Randy?
Yeah, can you hear me
Okay, there
now?
we go. We can hear you now.
All right, great.
Well, country, we're not going to have a whole lot of time before our next. I'm going to give you till the next guest comes on at 10 o'clock. You know, I'm sure there's some technical difficulty getting on there at 9:45. But so how's it going over there with your election?
It's going real good, William. I'm excited. I'm running on my record. You know, I've been sheriff for 11 years, 11 and a half years. We brought it from a bankrupt office all up to a surplus where we don't have to borrow $2 million every year just to do our budget. So I'm excited. We've done a lot of things. Bought $1 million worth of Tahoes. They're paid for, completely out of debt. We've increased our deputies, and we have plans to do even more. So things are going well, and plus we're doing the job. We're putting people in jail where they need to be.
What I like that I'm hearing, you know, is that when you took over this office, and whether it's the previous sheriff that ran it in the debt, you know, whether it's whatever was the blame. And again, I just got done doing a little monologue, you know, on that we can't, you know, we can't always just blame the past politician, or we can't blame the current politician. You know, we the people need to take responsibility in not only electing good elected officials, but also doing our own part to make sure that our offices are cleaned up. But it sounds to me that that's what you did. You took over an office that was in debt, and without looking back, you looked forward and cleaned up the debt, and now you have a surplus.
Now we have a surplus. We have approximately a $4.7 million surplus. And now that doesn't mean that we're just banking that money. That means that we don't have to go borrow money to finish the year out, which is a fiscal year from July the 1st to June the 30th. So in the past, we had to make a $2 million loan. And at the end of that fiscal year, we had to go borrow that money again just to keep things rolling. But that's all in the past now. And I'll say this, nobody wanted this job until we got it straightened out. And I have 3 running against me.
So you got it in perfect shape. You got to do it, you know, more streamlined. You got it out of debt, and now somebody wants to get in there and take credit.
Yeah, well, listen, there's more to it than getting it out of debt, and it's putting the knuckleheads in jail where they belong. We have a 144 bed jail, and at times we have 260 people in here. I will never apologize for putting someone in jail, and because we want to protect our people. I have one of my opponents. He said we don't need law enforcement. We need peacekeepers. Right. Go tell that to a mother. Just her daughter just was raped by a knucklehead. Tell that to that mother that, hey, we just need peacekeepers. Go give them a piece of candy and tell them don't do that no more. Won't ever happen with me.
So what it sounds like to me is not only were you able to get the fiscal problems under control, get you out of debt, get you streamlined, you are also at the same time able to reduce crime and get the bad guys, or the knuckleheads, as you like to say, off the street.
Yeah, we haven't had that many murders, but every murder that we've had, we've been able to clear it up except one. That is a debate between a suicide and a homicide. We've even had the state police to come in and help us with that and look at it. And we can't make a determination on that, but we're going to keep working till we get new leads and bring whoever did that crime to justice. But we've done well. We're above the national rate of solving burglaries. And you know, burglaries, that all come because of drugs. People rob and take other people's stuff because they needed to go buy drugs with it.
And it sounds to me like you're a bridge builder at the same time. If you've been able to reach out to the state police and have a relationship with them, you know, at a time when you need the additional resources to do so, because let's face it, I mean, look, even New Orleans reaches out to the state police, but they have a bigger problem. But you didn't have to reach out to them until you needed additional resources to be able to, you know, to get the job done for the people.
Yeah, they have more money than we do, and they're willing to help us, and I have a good working relation with them, all the way from headquarters in Baton Rouge down to the local troop L in Mandeville. And let me tell you something else. There's more to being sheriff than just putting people in jail, and plus we're the sales tax and the property tax collector too. There's more to it than that. You've got to get out there and know the people. I have over 22,700 cell numbers in my phone that I can stay in touch with the people and touch at any time. And that's important because a lot of people don't want to talk to a deputy, but they'll call their sheriff and say, Sheriff, I want to tell you who did this crime. And we were able to solve a lot of cases by having contact with the people. They know me, they trust me, and they know they can call me.
I love the fact that you've streamlined it. You've made it fiscally responsible for the people's tax dollars. So you're not a burden. You've got an office that's not a burden on their wallet, on their taxes. You've reduced crime. You've locked up the bad people. So now you're helping them be able to live a more prosperous life. And you've done this in a way where you're a bridge builder. And now you've got that office where it's in perfect condition. And if they vote for anybody else, they may see it go back to where it was and higher crime. But with you, a next term, they'll see a better, more secure parish. But is there anything you'd like to accomplish in another term?
Yeah, there is. I was kind of late getting started as being the sheriff. I was the tax assessor for 18 years, and I gave up the best job in the courthouse to run for the most stressful job in the parish, and that's being the sheriff, protecting our citizens. And it's tough being the sheriff in a small rural parish because you know everybody and you can to a lot of them. So you have to not only police those you don't know, but you have to police those you know and you love, and you got to treat them all alike. But yeah, I want to continue so I can hopefully we can work with our state people in federal government with our Congress lady is Miss Julia Letlow, and she's now on the appropriation committee, and she's made a commitment to me that she's going to help us get grants. We'll be an 80-20 grant where we can build a new jail. We have a 144-bed jail. We got 260 in it. We have some in Plaquemine Parish right now. So we need a bigger jail to get our people home, and we need an updated jail. We don't even have isolation cells in Washington Parish, which is horrible.
And so you're going to work with your congresswoman to be able to fix that too.
Yes, and we're not going to ask for a penny tax, not 1 penny more. And since I've been sheriff, I haven't asked for a cent more from the people to burden them. We're going to try to do this with money coming from Washington, D.C. But that's my two biggest things. Continue to do the job and increase our patrol and to get a new jail for Washington Parish. You need to keep the person in there that knows folks from Baton Rouge to Washington, D.C.
Country, I don't endorse many people because I have a radio show, but I certainly endorse you.
Well, I appreciate it. I always tell my friends, William, just keep lying and telling everybody I'm a good guy.
All right, Country. I got our next guest on, and she's running for state rep. And I don't know if you can see her or not, but I went over into her time a little bit, because you're important, and I think you're important to Washington Parish. And I want to thank you very much for being on today.
Well, thank you so much, and I wish your new guest the best of luck. And
Thank you.
best I can tell you on politicking is the harder you work, the luckier you become.
I hear that. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, country. I'll have you back on before the election. Have a great day.
All right, bud. Thank you.
Thank you, bye. Kellee, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you doing, William?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm so happy to have you on today.
Likewise. Thank you.
I know you're running for state rep, but having had a chance to meet you at the Freedom Caucus, I
It was
got
an honor to meet you as well.
you got a special place in my heart and mind. I got to tell you, when you're a member of the Freedom Caucus.
Oh, look, that was probably one of the greatest honor that could be bestowed to me. And that was quite a night for me. I think the world of those men and women who have stood strong and made such a difference for our state. And for me to have been honored to be one of them, with that endorsement that night, whew, what an honor.
Yeah.
And that really, that holds me accountable. That really grounds me and shows me there's so much to fight for. And some big shoes to fill as well, as I'm running in this important seat that's being vacated by Valerie Hodges. She's running now for Senate and doing quite well. So proud of her. But this is a big seat, a very important seat in District 64. And I am working so hard, working day and night. And there's a lot of issues that we got to fight for.
Well, before we get to those issues, what I want to say is, when you get endorsed by the Freedom Caucus, and you make that commitment, and
Exactly.
you say the things that it takes to get that, fiscal responsibility, putting freedom
Absolutely.
first in a lot of the legislation, it's a whole nother bar to get over. It's a whole nother set of standards, because I don't think that a lot of our other legislators that are not members of the Freedom Caucus really put freedom first all the time. And I think when you put freedom first, not only it's not Republican values, it's not Democrat values, it's not conservative values. Values that involve putting freedom first are for everybody. But the problem is the establishment-minded people don't want freedom first.
No.
Because they know that more people can unite on freedom principles, and they are divided easier when they're not united on freedom principles. So you've got a higher set of standards.
Absolutely.
Are you ready for that?
I am so ready. And, I don't know if you can see this if I hold it up, but that's one of the things that I put on my push cards from the get-go, that I will fight for faith, family, and our freedoms, because that means so much to me. And I think that that's so important of who we are and what we stand for as true conservatives. And that's the one thing that we are blessed to have, is a new true Republican governor coming in, and a predominantly Republican House and Senate to come together to fight, to make a difference, and to bring Louisiana back on top. I think it's a whole new historical beginning.
So I always talk about my Democrat friends, though, because even though I'm Republican and I'm freedom oriented, I always tell my Republican friends that we don't have to give up our values or our beliefs.
We got to shake hands across party lines and unite everybody to bring everybody back on top.
And I think when we show them the how conservative values and freedom-minded values are benefit them also.
Absolutely.
Again, it's a higher bar to get to be able to say, hey guys, look, this bill isn't about republicanism or being Republican or conservatism. It actually benefits you too, because conservative values benefit everybody,
it's
not
true.
Just Republicans.
It's true.
So what do you think?
What unites us all?
What's that?
It really unites us all, is the way I look at it.
So what is your background? We got to track a little bit.
My background is really education.
You get an extra few minutes because you're my last interview at this forum. So what's your background?
I have been on the school board for the past 12 years.
Okay.
I've been unopposed. I've never had a race before. And I feel like I have been a true voice of the people, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
I've never had a campaign donation. I have never had a logo or a sign. So I never planned to run for higher office. People whom I really respect in my community in District 64 came to me and they said, would you consider running for this seat? And I said, oh my goodness, no way. No way, not at all. And I really had to do spend a lot of time in prayer, walking with the good Lord on this, and talking to my husband and my family, and spending a lot of time talking to other people whom I respect, and Valerie Hodges and other people at the Capitol, Danny McCormick and Alan Seabaugh, and many others, Blake Miguez, and of course Scott McKay, and really soul searching. And I realized that this was a calling. And once I put my heart into something, it's 1,000%.
Right.
And really walking and talking and the old fashioned grassroots campaign. And, when I started this, I had about this many issues of what we needed in District 64. And I'm about 5'2" with the big hair. And now I have about 7-8 feet of issues that we really have to work on. But education. There's so much that has to be fixed in education. And that's going to be something that I fight for. We've got so much to fight for with taxes. We had a tax that was a parish-wide in Livingston Parish, and I was the only person who was against this tax. And it was pushed as a tax for our school teachers, our educators. And I'm 1,000% behind our educators, always have been. And I have fought to get them better pay for the 12 years that I have been on the board. It's been desperately needed. But it was disguised as a 1 penny tax for them. And I was the only person in the entire parish that was against this, because I'm against wasteful spending.
Right, exactly.
And I think a tax should be a very last resort. Very last resort. I'm against taxes. And I think that when you have the money, you have to tighten your belt and you have to do everything to ensure accountability and public trust. And I think the money is there. I just think you have to prioritize, and you have to tighten your belt, and you have to put your people first. And I do not believe that we've done that with the Livingston Parish School Board. I don't think we've prioritized and put our people first for years. So I couldn't support that. And that was not a popular thing to do. It was very, very difficult. But that tax failed by about 56%. And it showed people, that we need to regain the public trust. We need to put our people first. We need to find a way from the inside to make that happen. So that taught me a lot about the strength that I have, and the being the voice of the people. Our business owners could not handle that. We could not, a 1% increase to them. It would have hurt, Bass Pro and big businesses. And we need to work to bring more industry to Louisiana.
Love it.
William, as well as I, we've got some of the brightest people, some of the brightest minds with our institutions and our universities, but we're losing them.
Right.
In so many other states. And
Right.
Louisiana's coming in last on everything. We've got to work to bring Louisiana back on top.
I love the statewide thinking. You've been effective as a local elected official, because you've been able to, when you're school board or you're on the parish council, you can affect change a little bit easier in your area. So when people say, represent your area, when you get to the legislature, now you're one of 105, right? So now you're not only trying to fight for the people in your district,
Right.
you're trying to do it through the how shall we say, the game of I don't say the game, but the oh goodness, the playground, we'll say. Well, let's say the playground of 105 people, to get them all to do the same thing, to be able to follow the same game plan to win for the state of Louisiana.
Right.
So now you're a team player, on a team of 105 people.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to be able to move that needle for your district, for your area, and while thinking about doing the same thing on a state level? Have you thought about that?
I have. And again, it's really the same that I have done so far on the school board. When my background is TV, I worked for WAFB TV for almost 20 years as an anchor and a reporter. And in the communications business, your job is to listen to people. You know, you communicate and
Right.
report the news, but you also listen. And I always, whenever I talk to kids in universities or little kids in schools, I tell them, no matter what the assignment is, listen to what people say. And I've always tried to listen to my constituents. And any bill that we try to pass, it's not a Kellee Hennessy Dickerson bill. It's
Right.
going to be the bill that our constituents want. Because
Right.
when I take an oath of office, it's to serve the people of Louisiana.
Love it.
And so I'm going to represent you and everyone out there and to make a difference. And that's what we have to all remember at the House and the Senate. That's what we do. We serve you. And so we have to be a team, and a team works together, you know, to put that win on the board.
Right.
You know, that's as we watch the Tigers, you know, as painfully as it's been this season so far, we've got to work together as a team. And this whole new team that's coming in come January, I am excited and I'm delighted because, you know, the outcome on October 14th is going to be Kellee Hennessy Dickerson as the winner on that. And we're going to have a new governor, and we are going to be successful because we have a passion for
Right.
Louisiana. We love our state. We have the best food, we have the best resources, and we have the best people. We have the best people. And those of us with a servant's heart,
Mhm.
not politicians. I don't even like the word, believe it or not. But we have the best people, and we've got to come together as that united team. And I can't stress that enough. We've got to elect people with servants' hearts that are good, moral, and just people that want to come together to serve the people and bring us back on top.
I love how you're putting service first, and how
Got
you're thinking of the people first.
Have to.
But when you're in office, I kind of asked you a little bit about some of the priorities, or what do you think are some of the problems of Louisiana? When you get elected, what are your priorities that you want? Because you're going to have, people are going to come to you and say, "Hey, can you do this piece of legislation for me?" You're going to have lobbying groups, you're going to have interest groups, you're going to have, you're going to have big groups, and you may even have some statewide elected officials that say, "Hey," because the Secretary of State, the Treasurer, they work with legislators to get certain legislation through. What is your priority? What are your top 3 priorities that you want to see or have legislation reflect when you get in office?
Top 3 is very difficult for me.
Okay.
I have lots. But let's see. I've been taken on by the ethics board, so we definitely need to reform the ethics board. That is a huge.
Yes,
huge
we do.
They have taken on me. They've taken on Jeff Landry. A lot of them need to go. That's a big priority. Income tax needs to go. As I mentioned, I'm an anti-tax person. A tax should be a very last resort. We as hardworking citizens of Louisiana, we pay entirely too much. But income tax is one of those things that I think needs to go.
Right.
We're not doing enough to recruit good businesses to Louisiana. We really need to work to improve that and to be a more business-friendly place to be.
Right.
We're not doing that enough. We've really got to work on that. We're paying too much in insurance. Insurance is a nightmare. Crime is another issue. Flooding in my district, the Amite River Basin Commission and the Comite River, flooding is a big problem for all of my district, and it's a big problem around Louisiana. Flooding and infrastructure, huge problems. But I know I've gone well over 3 already. But there's so many issues.
Yeah.
But I'm going to get in there, roll up my sleeves, and I'm going to get it done. I'm not just a voice. I might be small in stature, but I can tell you I'm a pit bull when it comes to the issues, and I get it done.
Pit bulls are nice.
Well,
Pit bulls are good.
And I'm an animal lover, so I love them all too. So.
It's funny. I always say that because, but you're right. You're a fighter. And
I am.
It sounds to me like you're fighting from your heart.
I do, William.
Mind as within the intelligence from your mind as a direction to guide your heart. to do what's right for the people in your district in Louisiana. Is that correct?
It's true. You know, I was raised that right is right and wrong is wrong. There's no gray area. And you have to stand up. You know, this is the hardest thing I've ever done that I have put my family through was this campaign. It's mean, it's nasty, the ugly mail outs, you know, the horrible things they say about you, believe it or not, in this so-called
bad things about you.
So believe it or not, and I think I'm the nicest person you ever want to meet, and I'm an open book. You might not like all the answers, but I'm an open book, and I'm going to tell you. And I think I probably have, and I hate to say this because my mom will probably kill me right now. I have just as much testicular fortitude as the next person. I'm going to tell you like it is. But, you know, they're just not very nice. And let it keep coming because I'm going to fight for the people. The people deserve it. I'm going to give this my all because I believe in this with all my heart. I'm a public servant, and I'm going to fight for this minimum wage job with everything in me.
Yeah, it's less than a minimum wage job, believe me, because I see how much you guys work. You know, well, Kellee, we'll have you on again. I'm gonna close out the show, and then but hang on, don't get off the camera yet because I'm gonna close out the show and talk to you for a second here. But thank you again for coming on in District 64. You said?
District 64, Kellee Hennessy Dickerson. I'm number 60 on the ballot. And I'm not going to let you down. The only promise I can make to you is I'm going to work my tail off and I won't let you down.
And how can people find out more about you?
KelleeForLouisiana.com. And it's KELLEE. KelleeForLouisiana.com.
I love it. Thank you so much, Kellee. I appreciate it.
Thank you. God bless you, William.
All right. Hang on one second. Everybody else, please. You'll find this video on my YouTube and Rumble account at William Wallace for America. You can share it there. Again, this one has a bunch of guests today, but this is the only way we're going to fix Louisiana is by listening to the candidates, listening to what they have, getting a sense of what's in their heart and what's on their mind. And I try to do these interviews in a fair, friendly way so you can get a chance to meet the actual person. So please share the video. Thank you all so much for listening today. Really appreciate it.